Good afternoon and welcome to our first virtual OLLI volunteer meeting. One of the last times we were together was during the Wrinkle in Time program in the WishCamper Center on March 4th and 5th. And that important gathering was intended to lead the way into further discussion about how OLLI could work directly on strategies to further President Cummings' Goal 10 on equity and justice. Hearing from President Cummings directly about his journey and the plans for USM regarding anti-racism was a really powerful time for those of us who were there. But shortly after that meeting, we experienced the total shift to working from home and creating a virtual OLLI. But now that OLLI is on a firm foundation and our firm virtual foundation, and our fall session begins, I'm delighted that we'll be able to talk to President Cummings again. Now, today we have an interpreter with us who will, if you need hearing assistance or would like to see the interpretation, you can go to the little picture of Interpreters Pine Tree Society and just go to the upper right corner of that picture where the three dots are, click on those dots, and then pin video. Now, if you are on an updated Zoom version, you can pin that video and also go to President Cummings' picture, and in the upper right-hand corner, do the same thing. Click on the three dots, scroll down to pin video, and that way you'll be able to see them both. But if you need to choose, we'll leave it in your hands about whether you choose to pin President Cummings or the interpreters, who we thank for stepping forward to be with us today. President Cummings will speak with us shortly, and then afterwards we'll have a question and answer session. So the way that I think we can do this is a few ways. You can type your question into the chat, which is on the toolbar, the Zoom toolbar just left of the center. Click on that, type in your question, and during the question and answer period, I'll read your question out. The other thing that we can try to do is if you click on the participants icon at the bottom, a window will open up on the right that will list all the participants and give you the option of raising a hand, raising a little blue hand. You click on the button, and then I can call on you, and you can read out your question yourself during that Q&A period. So if anybody has any questions about that, just go to the chat area, and I'll try to sort that out with you shortly. The other thing that I wanted to do before we start is to introduce Megan Saul, who is our new full-time administrative specialist. Megan just started with us on the 14th, so we're really happy to have her with us here today. So now I'd like to welcome Jean Paquette, who is the Vice President of Corporate and Workforce Engagement at USM. Jean has been with USM since 2017, and OLLI is one of the departments she administers. Jean's support and leadership has been especially important to OLLI since March, when she's ensured that all of our divisional partners work together, allowing for lots more shared expertise and opportunity. Since my arrival in 2019, I've witnessed Jean's advocacy for OLLI, both in meetings, in groups, and then behind the scenes. I'm really delighted that Jean can join us today, and I'd like to turn the floor over to her.
Thank you, Donna. Welcome, everyone. This is a pleasure. I really am excited to be with all of you today. I feel like it's been a very long time since I've been able to do anything with the OLLI group. So I first want to say thank you for your time and effort in volunteering for this very important part of USM. When I joined USM back in 2017, I immediately grew very fond of OLLI and its mission and all the activities that were going on. But one of the things I really wanted to do was to really help to integrate more partnerships with USM and the larger community. And Donna has been wonderful, and her team is wonderful in helping to make that happen. So I don't want to take up any more time, and I'm sure I don't have to introduce President Glenn Cummings, but I will give you just a little short intro. I work with Glenn on the cabinet, and as you can imagine, there's been a tremendous amount of things that we've been working on related to COVID and keeping our community safe. And Dr. Glenn Cummings has been absolutely pivotal, not only with USM, but within the state of Maine, in helping to make sure that our students and the people that we have in our community are safe and get as informed about information as possible. So today's exciting because it's kind of, you're going to get an update from Glenn, but then you're going to hear some things about our future at USM. So thank you everyone for being here today. And I will now turn it over to Dr. Glenn Cummings.
Thank you, Jean. Thank you for that introduction. Welcome everybody. Thank you so much for meeting. I deeply respect and appreciate what goes on at OLLI on a daily basis. And I asked Donna if she would give me a few ideas or talking points of things that I might mention today. And you know, she's just way too classy to mention the most important thing, that I can't thank her and Jean enough for being just a great executive director. So please know that she has my heart and soul with her, and I think she does such a great job, just such good positive energy, and tries to listen to all sides and tries to find really great solutions. So Donna, thank you, and Jean, thank you for your great supervision. I had a couple of things. I wanted to say thank you deeply. You know, I can't tell you how important that decision of yours to really focus on what we called the 10th goal, which is how we emanate equity, inclusion, social justice into our organization. I mean it when I say that, you know, sometimes, you know, if somebody's, you know, a little bit critical, it's often because they implicitly have super high expectations of you. And I have found that the community really expects USM not to be good at inclusion, understanding, equity, social justice. They expect us to be the best as models, and because we're a learning, reflective, you know, a reflecting organization. And if we're going to do that, if we're going to enter that sphere, which we are, and we're happy to do that, we are by far the most diverse university in the state of Maine, with over 20% of our students identifying as students of color. You know, when I grew up in a Maine high school up the coast, a small Maine high school up the coast, let me say that number was probably 1%, 2%. So for me to be in a university today that has 20% means a couple things. It means that I'm truly honored and I'm blessed. And secondly, it means that I don't always have the answers. In fact, a lot of times I don't. And as I mentioned before previously, and I really appreciated our conversation down at WishCamper last year. I know a bunch of you were there, and I thank you. You know, I thought, well, you know, I've got this pretty much mastered. You know, I've read my books and I read history, and I worked for President Obama. So I guess, you know, that's about as much as I'm going to do in this lifetime when it comes to race and equity, because what could be more? And then only to find how deeply structurally embedded racism really is, and how much it's embedded in our own organization has been an eye-opener for me. What I thought I might do today is walk you through a couple things and then just answer questions from you. My goal today, and I had offered, and I'm so glad that you were willing to have me, is just to open up a conversation about how we could work closer. I think we talked about mentor programs. I just think that would be terrific, and be given the wealth of knowledge and expertise and skills and achievements that the people at OLLI have done. Our students are hungry for those kind of role models and that kind of information. So I'd love to follow up on things like that, but also I know you wanted to help specifically on equity, race, and social justice. The first thing I might show you, and I know that it can get a little bit long, so I'll try to make this as quick as possible, but I just want to quickly go through our new 5-year plan that we are developing, and we're still open. In fact, all through the semester, we'll be asking for input, so if you have thoughts and ideas, let us know. But Stephen, would you be willing to put up on the screen? We'll scroll down fairly quickly through our 5 new kind of priority areas. This is an exciting time for the UMaine system. The UMaine system is working together stronger than ever. We have now unified accreditation, so we can cross-teach, which is great for students. And I wanted to say that we are excited about addressing the challenges, not just of the university, but the world. And as you might have noticed, there are quite a few of those challenges out there in the world today. So we've got plenty to work with. The next slide, Stephen, if you can scroll up. So remember, our focus has been student-focused every day for the last 5 years, that we try to work with respect and care, integrity and equity and responsiveness with our students. And those are our core values. And we outline our mission statement, which is to create great citizens, great workers for the world that are principled and skilled. I will just take just a moment, if I could just brag a little bit, that a week ago, Thursday, we discovered that U.S. News and World Report thought that we had done a terrific job at Student Focused Every Day and listed us in their top 100 for colleges of social mobility, meaning that you are seeing students achieve at USM higher than what their socioeconomic status or their ethnic status or it's statistically what you would expect from even gender variations, et cetera. And at USM, they are achieving above the average. And so we're honored to be able to now report that we are designated by US News and World Report as in the top 100 in social mobility and impact. So we condensed the 10 goals into 5 priority areas. The first one is excellence in academics and research. We believe that we want to get that message out. And so we're shifting a little bit of our marketing to focus, and maybe you've seen it on TV, excel at USM, excellence at USM. Really, we've got 260 PhD terminal degree professors doing research, some of them at the national level. We want to push that. The next priority area is around taking natural advantage of our location, which is full and rich of career connections and citizen preparation. And Jean Parquet has been just a monster advocate for this, and she's been terrific. And so our hope is that we return the investment. Our students are telling us we don't have trust funds. We're not going to go hike the Himalayas after graduation. We need a job after graduation. In many cases, help us get that. The third priority is directly focused on what OLLI said that they were interested in. We want to lead, not just be okay at. We want to lead in equity, race, social justice, and we've outlined a number of goals there. Our fourth area, as some of you may know, that we have a strong applied research and policy research focus, especially in the Muskie School for Public Service and the Cutler Institute, and we want to build on that, a statewide reputation. And then finally, the last priority area is really around our commitment to transforming the campuses at Gorham and Portland. So with that, we can come back to those 5, but I just want to say we've now kind of condensed those 10 goals into these major areas and priorities. It may be nice for us, if you're willing, is for us to show you some of the slides of how your view from WishCamper might actually look a little different. So we are in March. We're hopeful that we will get our permit from the city of Portland. We've had a number of meetings now with the planning board. They are very positive about us. We've got some issues that we need to decide around parking, whether we keep it, just expand the parking garage where it is now, or we move over to Falmouth Street. I think we're leaning towards the former, not so much on Falmouth Street, because some of the neighbors understandably do not want to look at a parking spot, parking lot, or parking garage. And also I think from OLLI's point of view, having the parking spot closer to WishCamper allows for more safety and ease for people who are in the OLLI program. So with that, let me just show you a couple renderings so you can start to envision this visually from WishCamper. So Stephen, if you want to show us the first couple slides. So this is, if you were a bird over WishCamper, you can see WishCamper down in the lower right-hand corner. There is right now there's a really pretty homely looking parking lot out there that's looking more and more ragged as COVID-19 goes on, and we want to turn that back to beautiful green space, and that's the quad, that green space, that green square basically. It's almost a full acre. And then deep in is the new student center, and we'll look at that in just a minute. To the right is Portland Commons, and that will be 577 new beds of affordable housing under market for the, about 60% will be upperclassmen, and about 40% will be graduate and law students, PhD level master's degrees, and law students who would have the lower section of Portland Commons there on the right-hand side. And on the ground, you can see a couple levels. So this is literally, this picture is literally if you were walking out of WishCamper and walking across Bedford, this is what you would see. The good news for you is if you want to come over and have a cup of coffee, if you want to come and grab a donut and a cup of coffee to bring to class, or if you just want to hang out with students at the university, and remember they're of all ages. So, we'd love to have you. And if you just want to go and do cartwheels on the green grass and enjoy the quad, you can do that too. Next visual. And this is coming up from Forest Avenue. So WishCamper is on your left-hand side, sort of the Cohen Center, and WishCamper is on your left. To your right, diagonally, is what you would see as our new residence hall. For the first time ever, we've never had students living with us on the Portland campus. All 1,500 of our students that are residential, as you know, many of you know, are out on our Gorham campus in Gorham only, and they've been out there since 1878. Not the same kids, but those students have been out. The students have been out there from that since 1878. But this will be brand new. This will be historic. We are market studies. We're doing a new market study post-COVID, but our initial consultants said that the demand for affordable housing is so intense right now and so difficult that these under market, if you're a full-time student, you'll have access to this, and we think that it will be very attractive. Let me go on to the next. So I give total credit to our Chief Business Officer, Alec Porteous, who said, I don't want to see just a beautiful spring day. That's not what we get here in Maine. I want to see the ugliest weather you can get. And does that building still look good? I think it does. So there's a rendering from that same spot with a dash of our not easy midwinter. And next. And so there you look straight across from WishCamper to the Portland Commons. You can get a pretty good idea there about what it might look like. It will be, I think, fairly classy, and it will have kind of an aluminum clad similar to what you see at the Cohen Center and on WishCamper, and then it will have some of the darker inlays of windows as well. There'll be long windows absorbing that southern light on the Bedford Street side. Next visual. And again, you can kind of see, you can get a piece of how this might all come together. One thing that's not visible here, and I think it's in other slides, but I'll just just let you know that there will be a connector between the student center and the residence hall, so students can come down in their pajamas on Saturday morning and get their meals, etc. But in that student center, on the third floor will be student activities. On the second floor will be what it's really designed for. It's the Career and Student Success Center is the formal name. And Jean Parquette and her team will be in on that floor with companies coming in on a regular basis to meet our students, to talk about future job opportunities, to explain the industry, to help them with resumes, to help them develop their best foot forward and possibly hire them. We hope hire them. And then on the bottom floor will be a much larger dining space that will be full. Remember, it's got to bring, it's going to have to be open pretty much 3 meals a day, all 7 days. because of the residence hall connected to it. And also it will have a small pub that will be open in the evenings. It'll have a kind of a special executive dining room, which of course would be open to OLLI as well. So I'm going to stop right there on that. I don't know if you would like to, but there's about a 3-minute tour where you can actually walk across the quad and you could actually go right into the student center. So maybe we'll end on that glamorous note, and then we'll just open it up to questions. So if you're walking sort of out from WishCamper and heading there, you can see yourself just starting to walk across the grass and see students, and you can see that all our students are really athletic looking and not an ounce of fat on them. And I don't know who does these, but they're very stylized. We've got the 2 colors of USM there in the Adirondack chairs, and then you're entering into what is the dining hall area, and you can see yourself kind of moving forward into this area, which will be designed for dining. And this is what it might look like. You may have seen out there that we're going to try to use local timbers, including cross-laminated timbers, and try to minimize the amount of steel that we're going to use inside the building, because that has a high carbon footprint. As you're walking along here on the first floor, you will come along underneath the stairs. And you can see that the Casco, where it says Casco Bay Bookstore, it's probably, don't hold us to that name, but that might be the name of our bookstore. So if you want to buy t-shirts for yourself or for your friends or grandchildren or children, it is right there. And there'll be an information desk outside, so students can get access there to get information if you're coming in new. And then you start to head up the stairs. Before we do that, you'll see, you're going to see the elevators that can take you up there, or you can walk up. This is the small pub that we talked about. So that will be open. It'll be open to the public if people want to come up. And then you'll start walking up the stairs to Jean's house, the career hub. And that is a place where, as I said, businesses and students will start to converse about the process of making sure they've got internships, co-ops, job shadowing, and job opportunities. When they get to the top of the stairs here on the second floor, you can see there's a nice dining room. That's the executive dining room that I talked about. And that's someplace where OLLI could have its executive function. So if you had all your executive group or a small group of people, it will hold up to 100 people in there. OLLI, of course, is much larger than that, but if you had an appropriate use for that. Here is another place where students can hang out near the elevators, and there's open lounges. Remember that we have a lot of commuter students. In fact, most of our students are commuter, at least post-COVID, pre-COVID. And this gives you an idea of where these students could hang out. Very comfortable furniture and private areas as well, where they can have access to comfort in a cup of coffee or a cup of tea and work and do their homework. And then, yes, here's what, again, is that private or executive dining room that we might have medium-sized events in, similar to what we have at WishCamper, excuse me, at Abramson. And it can be done in different formats, by the way. So it could change to using for a classroom or panels. The USM System Board of Trustees could do a major meeting in there if they wanted to, et cetera. And you can just do a traditional lecture hall as well. So when George Mitchell or the Olympia Snow come and speak, they'll have a place that they can have relative intimacy there with just 100 people. This next floor is up on the third floor, and this is student activities. These would be our multicultural center. It also has a place for our student life student life programs, our residence programs. It could have our veterans center, et cetera. So we will, that upstairs will be a place where student activities and students groups can get together and talk on the third floor. And I think that brings us pretty close.
Glenn,
Yes.
Just a quick note. This is Jean. Just a quick note. The circular desk area, that's actually going to be where students will come to get appointments or figure out where they are with their career services.
Mm-hmm.
So then they go upstairs to the student affairs area.
That's right. Yeah, that's the information booth. And here you can see, if we do this right, you can see how much acreage there actually is. Those beams, by the way, are the cross-laminated timbers, those upside down V's or those W's or whatever you want to say. And you can see just how much acreage you would have here. And we could actually do college by college. We could do a graduation ceremony college by college out on that lawn in May. If the weather were permitting. So it's exciting. That pretty much closes my presentation today. I hope, as you know, I will kind of just again remind you of expectations that when the construction happens and begins, it will. We will be moving some vehicles, will have to be rerouted from the present parking out back of WishCamper. So that could be a little bit of a disruption. We expect the construction to be a 2-year process. So that does not make it, lovely and easy for you. So I would just want to manage that expectation. However, most days when you come into the student center, you can come right into WishCamper without much blockage, and you can still come directly into Abramson without any problems. But it shouldn't interrupt you because most of you would not be parking over there where it is now anyway. So I think that part is just a matter of it might get a little noisy. You've got construction, get vehicles, you get dump trucks, all those kind of things. So I just want to be really transparent about that part of it. That said, I hope by the time this is all done that you'll have something that makes your stay, however long you stay during the day, whether it's an hour or 3 hours or 5 hours, I hope you have a little bit more pleasant place for you to come and enjoy yourself over at the Career and Student Success Center. So I'll stop there, and I think there's some questions. I can certainly try to answer some of those.
Would you like me to read them? I'll read them out to the group.
Okay.
The first one is, are there changes planned for the dining rooms to allow for social distancing if needed?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're hopeful that since this won't open until early 23, we're hopeful that vaccinations will be the norm and that people can be to some extent back to normal. That said, we would have to then do what we've done with every building, which is to limit the total number of students allowed into a particular room, and then obviously reinforce mask and distance protocols just like we would in other rooms presently. So.
Okay, our next question is about paths across the green space. Concern that a wheelchair may not be able to navigate the grass. There's also the winter weather to consider. And a lot of the other green spaces at UNE or Bowdoin have those paths.
Yes.
So positive about the look, but a question about the access and paths.
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. Yes, thank you for reminding me that wheelchairs on grass are only the only thing worse is wheelchairs on snow. So I completely agree. I can't say I personally have thought through that as carefully as I should, but yes, I think we probably will have to have ways to move along, at least along the sides, with actual sidewalks, right? So, so I think that's probably the way to do it. I do know Bowdoin's campus pretty well. My wife's a graduate, and they do have crosswalking. They have cross-sectional places where you can go diagonal to the straight lines as well. So it's certainly something. Jean, you're on that building committee. I'll assign that to you to raise that question. Should we have some crosswalks that would literally go diagonally along that acreage?
Well, I'll just point out that the team that we're working with, we have some fantastic partners on this project, and we take into account very seriously how people will be able to get around and get access to all of the new buildings. So it is part of the plan. As far as the walk across the green space, the hope is that the green space will be used and the portico will be used for lots of outdoor activities and things that we can have on the grass. I definitely will bring that forward as a suggestion to see what the team has to say, but I'm confident that it will be a comfortable place for people at all levels of mobility to be able to get access to those buildings.
Yeah, and Stephen, it makes a good point. The paths are often the last things included in renderings. I have heard that they allow students to make their own paths, then they make the walkway, which is kind of interesting. I hadn't thought about that. That makes sense.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. I know that Paul and Bob have their hands up, but first we have a few other questions in the chat. One of them has to do with, as well as you are well aware of parking being an issue. With all of the new dorm facilities, will there be another 500 spots included in the plans?
Yeah, it'll be quite a few, several hundred. I don't know whether we'll do it bed by parking spot, because what people say is that a lot of students who then, if they can live on campus permanently, and remember the metro system that we now have is actually really robust. So you can get it off Forest Avenue, you can get it on Bedford Street, and you can go to most places in the greater Portland area, certainly in the Portland, South Portland, Falmouth, and Westbrook, and all the way out to Gorham now. So that number is probably going to be closer to 400. The city's kind of pushing us a little bit down, interestingly enough, but that number will be roughly in the hundreds. And the idea is probably to go out from where, one of the options is to go out from where Glickman, where the parking lot is now towards Glickman. So end up, but closer to 295. So I think that we should have plenty of parking spots. Plus, many of you have the advantage of coming during the day earlier than most students are getting up in the morning. So that helps.
Well, I think that's true. We have another question. Some people who are interested in OLLI are concerned about security regarding those open glass buildings. So I wonder if you can address that as part of the design choices that were made for the Student Success Center.
Yeah. So the first of all, the Portland Commons would be access card only, right? So because those are dormitories, those are living spaces. But the center itself, the student center itself, would allow people who are coming in there. Most of them, we would assume, would be USM students and by the way, OLLI is considered that, or staff or faculty. So that's who we assume will be going in and out, just like our present Woodbury is today. But the Portland Hall, Portland Commons would require identity passes to get in and out of. There's a question here under private. Is Portland Commons being relieving any rental housing shortage in Portland? Yes. So I'm glad this was asked. Somebody asked the question here, will Portland Commons relieve some of the rental tightness in the market? And yes, that was one of the arguments, and it's one of the reasons that the Portland Planning Board and the City of Portland has been excited about this idea, because they can see that that they could take some of the pressure out of the present rental market. I mean, literally just a few blocks over on, if you're familiar, Dartmouth Street, Fessenden Street, William Street, over heading towards Woodford's Corner. Those are pretty high demand areas for rentals, and what they can charge over there for a 2-bedroom, not exaggerating, $1,500 to $2,000 is not out of the question at all. For that area. So Stephen is nodding his head because he just moved out of that area. So anyway, I think we're getting a lot of good points. And by the way, the mayor has been very supportive of this because one of their top priorities of the city council and the mayor is affordable housing.
Great. Well, I'm going to ask Paul to unmute himself and to ask a question directly to the president.
And I thank you, Donna. I would have typed this question out, but I figured if I tried to do that, I would probably wrap it up about Friday or so. So that's why I thought it might be better to just see if I can ask you directly. And I'm not sure how this ties in, but it's just it's something that's kind of in my memory. And when you were talking about Portland Commons, for some reason it kind of popped up, and I don't know if it plays a role or not. I recall that when they first, over on Marginal Way, when they first built the Intermed Tower over there, they also built a complex, an apartment complex right next door, which I thought I had heard or seen was being built as student housing of some sort. And, knowing that it's not right there, but it's certainly, USM is the closest college I know of to where that was built. Does that have anything to do with USM and housing? I guess that's my kind of out of the field sort of question there on that.
No, Paul, that's a really good question. Yeah, Bayside Housing, it's across from where Trader Joe's is, if everybody knows where that is. We're across from EMS and Trader Joe's. That had an interesting history. It never had an official relationship with the university, but it had an unofficial relationship. The original owners really wanted us to promote students living there, which we did for a while. And then because, because of the natural I think the natural unsupervised early 20s person, things got a little rowdy over there. There was no RAs, there was no resident director. USM did not have a kind of a monitoring presence. And so we stopped actually recommending Bayside. There was some, I don't mean to say this is universal, but there was some drug issues, there was some assault issues. And we just kind of distanced ourselves. Now, we had some students who definitely took advantage of that, and some of them were very satisfied, a few weren't. So looking at this, what we realized is that we needed to build on campus to create a community, and so that we would have RAs, the resident associates, on every level of the Portland Commons, so that if somebody, when you're 20 years old, your aversion to risk is a little limited, right? And you're not always making the best decisions. And so we felt that we needed to keep it on campus, build a good community, and monitor and make sure that everybody was accountable for a decent level of good behavior. So.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
That makes sense. And now, Bob Kettle, I know you have a question. If you'd like to unmute yourself and ask.
Actually, I have a couple of comments, President Cummings. I have to tell you, I've been sitting here in this social distancing experience for the past 15 or 20 minutes, all by myself, cheering wildly. And it's because I'm so absolutely thrilled at what I'm seeing. I came here almost 40 years ago to interview for an executive position. And in one of my first interviews was with the vice president for finance. And it got to the end and I looked at him and I said, so where's the campus? He was in one of the houses, and well, then they told me what POGO, well, it was the University of Southern Maine, was all about. And so I ultimately, over the next 20 or 30 years, was involved in lots of these issues, and I'm thrilled because of what this represents in both the strategic planning and the confidence in what USM can do, and to attract students and to attract the kind of students that can take complete advantage here. And you are to be absolutely congratulated. Things from this perspective are looking very, very, very different than 7 or 8 years ago. And that is good for USM. It's good for the city of Portland. It's good for Southern Maine. And I will not cheer out loud now, but you can be assured I'm right there.
Bob, thank you so much for those comments. It means a lot to us. I will share with you that you are joined by our first, we need to raise about $4.5 million more, but our first donor gave us $1 million, and he wanted to remain anonymous, but he's a graduate of USM, and he said, I used to walk around there in the 90s, and I would think, God, this place has so much potential. And he said, this is a first major step in fulfilling some of that physical potential. And as Portland in the 1990s, in the last 20, 25 years, has really become a very attractive city, as you know, and people want to come. We're finding, you saw in the paper probably this morning, a 17% increase in the Portland area in the value of housing just since COVID-19 started, because people are saying, why do I have to be in downtown Philadelphia when I could be on the water in Portland, Maine, which is a safer, more beautiful area. So we are seeing that finally, I think we're starting to see what are our natural assets. So it's really nice to thank you for saying that. I mean, you know, nobody is particularly opposed to the project, but there are people like you who really understand how transformative it can be. So thank you.
Actually, the woman who was president a bit over 30 years ago would be totally blown away by what you're doing. And I think she'd also be impressed with the great political skill that you're demonstrating in doing it.
Thank you, Bob. I appreciate that. That means a lot.
Thank you. I think the next question is from Rita. Rita, if you'd like to unmute and ask President Cummings your question.
Sure. Hi, Glenn. How are you doing? Rita.
Hi, Rita. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good.
Can I just take a time out to say that my kids are thriving and successful in part thanks to this woman who had them in 3rd and 4th grade, I believe. So.
Yeah, 1st and 2nd.
1st and 2nd. Right.
But I continued along with them through their 3rd, 4th, and 5th. And and I just wanted to compliment you and see how OLLI. I see that there's a mentoring program and role models. I know from some of my volunteering at Casco Bay High School that the university has helped younger students in high school, you know, to get on with sort of learning and their careers. And I guess I don't know the plan for mentoring, but I think that OLLI has a great potential. With COVID-19, I don't know if we could do it on Zoom, but a great potential for mentoring students that will be here and are here.
Yeah, thank you so much for bringing that back up. I had mentioned it earlier, and Donna and Jean Parquette, I can't tell you, our students, many of the students, remember 52% of our students, their parents didn't go to college, right? And so they don't have it doesn't mean their parents aren't supportive, and my parents didn't go to college either, and they were super supportive of going to college and all that stuff, but they didn't know how to talk about it, right? They didn't know how to help with things, and they didn't know how to help with how to get a job, especially a professional job. So OLLI, if we could build that partnership, not every kid would take advantage of it, and not every OLLI member would be interested, and I get that, but for the group that would be on both sides, I think it could be an enormous, powerful statement. I remember, my own grandmother who went to Gorham Normal School and graduated in 1927. She was a role model for me because she would tell me what it was like to be a teacher, and I always wanted to be a teacher, and I still consider myself a teacher. So the idea that somebody can help talk to you about a profession or talk to you about how to, be persuasive as a leader or as a marketer or as a technician or an accountant. It could be really helpful. So Jean and Donna, I would like to continue this conversation and figure out how, and we might even apply for a grant. I could see there would be a lot of organizations that might be really excited about funding something like this. Maybe Mr. Osher in California would be interested in seeding some money to help get that started.
An interesting idea. We'll continue to work on that. Thank you, Rita.
Sure.
Betsy, would you like to unmute and ask President Cummings your question?
Sure. Hi, Glenn.
Hey, Betsy, how are you? Wow, this has been great. I get to see all my friends here. This is great.
Well, I was wondering what this means for Gorham and for the Gorham campus.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. So one of the things that we've decided is that only upperclassmen, juniors and seniors are allowed to apply for Portland Commons. So that stops the cannibalization or the melting away of students out in Gorham. So we hold that steady. The other thing that we're talking about doing, and it's easier to talk about it than doing it, is to create a new full freshman residential experience just on the Gorham campus. Because that's when we know that a lot of, especially first generation students, actually leave you in the first 2 or 3 semesters. And if we could create more of a family feel out in Gorham, that's special. So you're there, you take all your classes, and then you build those partnerships and relationships, you're much more likely to go. Your retention goes up, which ours has been going up, but we could do a better job. And it's in our hope is that keeps you all the way to completion. So we are trying to be extremely sensitive with Gorham. It's a place that I care about deeply. I spent my first 13 years teaching high school there when I got out of college. And it's a place, of course, as I said, my grandmother had gone to college there. So it is a place that we're very, very trying to be very careful not to hurt, but trying to expand. What our market study that we had done was done by Brailsford and Dunleavy out of Boston. And we asked them to determine whether we could fill all of those spots without harming the enrollment of the residence halls in Gorham. And so that statistic that came back, yes, was not just whoever wants to come. It was specific to, are there enough students who are renting apartments in South Portland, Westbrook, Scarborough, wherever that are, or Biddeford, Saco, that could fill those dormitories? And the answer was yes, just without hurting Gorham. So we're trying to be very, very sensitive about that relationship.
Good. Thank you.
Okay, we have another question about a program, and this may transcend Glenn and be something that the OLLI Advisory Board would like to take a look at. A few years ago, many OLLI students were part of an informal conversational English group with English as a second language division. So that may be something, I don't know what the status of that effort is right now, but it may be something that we'd want to consider recharging so that it becomes another way for OLLI members to engage with undergraduates or graduate students. So.
I would be strongly in favor of it. Our present head of our Board of Visitors, Luke Naya, who is, I believe, a Ghana native, is really working with us and partnering with us about how many people come from foreign countries who already have college degrees and sometimes advanced degrees that can't get a foothold easily in the U.S. economy. And the question is, what can USM do to help with that? And some of it's just the ability to go from conversational English to more academic English, right? So it's more of just a language barrier. It's not a skills barrier, but a language barrier. So I think you're putting your finger, Dawn is putting her finger on exactly something. So whatever we can do, Donna and Jean, to help with that conversation, we actually are going to have a conversation with Luke Nye and some other folks from the community about this. So if you want to add somebody from this group to that conversation, we'd be happy to have.
That would be great. That would be great. I wonder, President Cummings, if you could take a few minutes to talk about the North Atlantic Institute. OLLI's advisory board has approved the partial funding of some research and collaborative projects with the North Atlantic Institute. I know that our colleagues in WishCamper may be working from home as well. And we're going to re-engage them, but from your point of view, can you give us a sense of where that institute is headed?
Sure. I did happen to notice that Terry had his hand up. Terry, did you have your hand up? Oh, I can't hear you.
I had a question.
Yes, sure.
As a graduate of Indiana University, we had a huge union building there where if you were out of town and needed to come in and stay on campus, is there any thought of any kind of rooms for us older people who want to be there on campus because the snow's real bad, or we live away in Sanford or somewhere?
You know, that's actually a really good question because, first of all, those graduate housing is actually pretty nice. It's small, but it's designed so that if, a husband was in law school and the wife worked at IDEX or something, they could live together in an extremely small studio. It would have a small kitchenette. My guess is, Terry, that there would be some openings. So if you ever got caught in a snowstorm or something and you needed that option, one thing I would, this is kind of a little bit, this is a little bit ahead of the game for where we are, but we've thought about taking those, if you go up Bedford Street from Forest Avenue, you know, all those series of white houses, those small white houses. We're thinking about seeing if there might be a private contractor that would work with us in moving those into a long row of townhouses that would actually be for OLLI members, young faculty, maybe graduate students, maybe somebody coming back that has a little bit of money and they're coming back to law school or their PhD program. But it would be something that we'd like to test that market because we think that, you know, those series of houses don't look that attractive, and they could be very, very appealing, say for an OLLI member to literally walk next door. They would have that community right there all the time, and they could live on campus. But it also, many of our young faculty or postgraduate, they make very, very little. Our postdoctorate fellows. So we've been thinking about creating these very small apartments, or not super small, but these, you know, very modest sized apartments that would be along Bedford Street. And it might be attractive too, because as some of you have been following it, the roundabout is being built in front of the law school. So if you know, right in front of the law school right now, it's 5 corners and it's light driven. They plan to turn that into a roundabout approach, which probably has good points and bad points. But the good point for the university is that extension coming in on an angle that allows a lot of non-USM traffic to come down through the campus. In fact, over 60% of all the traffic that goes down through Bedford Street has nothing to do with USM, right? They're coming in from Gorham, from Westbrook, from Buxton, and they're driving down to get onto the highway, get up on the peninsula, go to Hannaford's, which, you know, drives me crazy because we've had 2 students in my 5 years that have been hit, hopefully nobody from OLLI, but hit by cars while they're trying to walk across the street. So our hope is when that dies down, that angle will reduce greatly the number of cars that have nothing to do with USM, and it will make it feel so much quieter, I hope, most of the time, and much more safe. And that might make those townhouses that we're considering we'd have to do it with a developer, but it could be very helpful. And given that we don't pay the greatest salary in the world, to be able to offer some on-campus housing for young faculty, Stephen's smiling. He knows that he's making a lot of money, but other people aren't. No. So we're hopeful that would be helpful. Let me just go back to the Donna, your question about the North Atlantic. So we are members. We have our North Atlantic initiative, and thank you for your help from OLLI. Right now, it's unfortunate because usually about this time we are gearing up to bring usually 10, 12, 15 scholars over to the Arctic Assembly in Reykjavik. And that has been, we will still have scholars there, but it will be all done by Zoom this year. And Reykjavik is such an attractive city to be able to push our initiative. We also have developed relationships with Tromsø, Norway. We are developing them in one in Copenhagen related to risk management and the insurance companies. And we have become an official University of the Arctic, which is a coalition of folks studying, in our case, not studying it so much from climate change and biology, and geography, but studying it from cultural, economic, and business perspectives. So we are still maintaining those relationships. I was supposed to go and teach there this past summer at Reykjavik University in public policy and economics. Unfortunately, that got canceled because of COVID. But we are planning to, as soon as we find that it's safe to have those kind of in-person relationships with our partners in the North Atlantic, we will. As many of you know, Our partnership has developed in part because of the new trade routes with IMSCIP particularly. And just a reminder, I've said this before, but sadly with global warming, we are seeing already over the top of Russia, you can transport fully 4 months of the year between, say, London or more likely Liverpool, all the way over to Seoul. 4 months of the year that those waters are now completely open. And they expect within 12 years, the waters, which were our ancestors were never able to walk. I mean, they could walk across, they could never sail across. They expect over the top of Canada in the Northwest Passage that will be open water in 12 years. Now, that's not good news for the environment, but it might strangely open up huge new opportunities for Maine. And so trying to be forward thinking, we are trying to figure out, what does that mean for Maine if you can travel between Tokyo or Seoul or Hong Kong by boat or Shanghai faster over the top of Canada, which you can than going through the Panama Canal. So our trade route idea, people will say, well, why are you so interested in the North Atlantic? First of all, they do parallel a lot of our public policy challenges, and they've done some good job on answering those challenges. And secondly, that we think that within a decade, you will start seeing Portland, Maine, perhaps being the first major port coming into the United States for a whole new shipping route. And again, I'm not trying to root for climate change, but I think if it's going to happen, we need to be ready for it.
Thank you very much. That's fascinating, actually. And then we'll continue to discuss possible research partnerships or program partnerships with the North Atlantic Institute. And I know that we're running out of time, but I wonder, Lorraine had her hand raised for a question. And I wonder, Lorraine, if you can give us you can be our last question if you want to unmute and ask.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you, Donna. Dr. Cummings, some time ago, there was a question about a name change for our campus, at least in the media from out here in Sanford. Is the idea of a name change for our campus dormant or aborted?
By the way, these questions are so on point. I don't know whether there's somebody sneaking in and grabbing the files out of my desk, but all your questions this morning, this afternoon, have been so on point. Thank you, Lorraine. The answer is we ran into some political opponents that I thought we could win against. Unfortunately, one of them got the ear of the governor, and she became a little less than warm to the idea. So I just put it on hold, remembering that we get millions of dollars from state government. So irritating state legislators is probably not the best use of my my political wisdom and political capital. So we decided just to pull back and to rethink it. I will say this, well, first of all, I will say that from an out-of-state perspective, changing to just University of Maine, Portland had a huge positive impact, as many of you would not be surprised. People just don't know Gorham and they don't know Lewiston, although they're great places, and I mean that. They simply just were not as attractive as Portland. That said, I think just a straight up University of Maine at Portland is going to be a tough one for us. The governor feels that it might hurt the feelings of Lewiston and Gorham and others, and I appreciate that. So the other thing we discovered in that data, by the way, is that, and this is for those of you who've been around Maine, it seems shocking. And I have spent most of my life in right here in Maine, certainly since birth, most of my life, except going out to college and a couple of years down at the Obama administration. So those of us who have been around, it seems shocking, but there were a number of people in our surveys in Maine who said, I didn't know you were part of the University of Maine system. I didn't know you were a public university. I thought you were different because you're the only one in the UMaine system that doesn't go by University of Maine, Farmington, University of Maine, Presque Isle, University of Maine, Orono. And so anyway, so one of the things I would like to do is get that University of Maine something. I don't know what it's going to, University of Maine, Lewiston, Portland, Gorham, or University of Maine, Casco Bay, or University of Maine, Great Place to Live. I don't know what we say, but if we could get some of that some of that, that would be great. So the way I'd like to look at it, Lorraine, is as we pull back the troops to reconsider our angle on the mountain. So, thank you.
Great. Well, Sheldon, did you have one last question? No? Okay, good. Well, I think we're at the end of our time. So thank you very much, President Cummings, for taking time out to welcome us back to the fall session and to share your thoughts about the development of our campus and some of the programs that have relevance for us at OLLI.
Thank you so much for
very
having
much.
me here. Thank you. And Donna, thank you. And thank you for everybody who was here this afternoon. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask Donna and I'll try to get the answers back for you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Glenn.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Say goodnight, Gracie.
Thank you.